What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the High Value Agent Podcast, where we inspire people to create a better life through real estate. I'm going to break down to you how to conduct the world's greatest showing. So, if you've been working with buyers for a while and you don't feel like you're working with them in an efficient manner, or you're not following a process that really lowers your days on market with a buyer, and in other words, that could take you from having to show 20 properties per buyer to get an offer accepted, all the way down to showing only 7 to get one offer accepted. This is going to be the episode that you want to keep close to you at all times as when working with buyers. Okay. Now, some of the things that I want to make sure we go through is just how to prep for the showing, how to future pace the buyer to write strong offers, if it's applicable, and then ways to practice. Okay. So, number one, let's talk about the mindset, because the mindset is going to be the number one thing. Write this down. Confidence and commissions go hand in hand. As an agent, a buyer or a seller, they're going to hire you based on your confidence. Okay. And if you want to make even more money in this business, you have to have high confidence. We have to build your confidence. Okay. And let's define what the word confidence actually means. The definition is the percentage likelihood that what you say will happen will actually happen. Okay. So, how do we build the confidence? You have to every day stack undeniable evidence that you are who you say you are. How do you stack the evidence? By doing the thing over and over and over and over and over and over, because that increases competency, right? And so the more competent you are, the more likely you are to stack the evidence in the wins. All right. And when you stack those wins and you go through this very mundane process, you earn what we call confidence. Okay. Like, if you really think about it, if you follow sports, if you think of Steph Curry or LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, these guys, even some of the younger guys, right, like Jalen Brunson and all of them, they followed a very boring process of showing up in the gym and making thousands of shots per day. That is not the most exciting thing. Imagine you're going into an empty gym. Trust me, they're not going into like public gyms where there's other people in there training and stuff like that most of the time. Most of the time, they have reserved the gym for just them and their intermediate team, right? And they are with no people to like give them energy from the stands, no fans there. No, they are having to make 1,000 shots a day. And a lot of times, these guys are shooting the same shot hundreds of times. Talking about mastery. That is mundane. That is boring. But through doing all of that, and then they go onto the court, and the work that they put in, it translated, and they're now getting wins and accomplishments on the court. That builds their confidence. Okay. So you have to operate very very similar to an actual athlete, and just pick one that you admire and understand you are following the same process as them. Okay. Now, keep in mind, confidence is not a destination. So every day you have to recommit to stacking even more evidence that you are who you say you are, just like your legends in the game do. And that also means by not doing that, then you can create confidence that can work the other way. Okay. Meaning you can build confidence that you will progress backwards. And so a lot of people have confidence that, oh, yeah, that won't work for me, or, that's not going to work out for me, and blah, 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 blah. Well, they've stacked tons of evidence that they never followed through on stuff, and that they are just that type of person. That is their identity. and their confidence now is based on being able to do things. Okay. And so here's the bottom line. Your level of business will never outpace your level of personal development. That's the key. That's the key. Okay. If you want to grow your business, then you have to be committed to developing yourself. And if you're listening to this podcast, then you've taken the step of receiving information, intel, content, right? You're being educated. Now you have to build the confidence through the process that I just laid out for you. Okay. Well, let's hop into the actual um, tactical part. So let's talk about preparation. So when you're getting ready for your showings for the day, be proactive, and you do that through preparation. So map out your showings. You need to account for travel time, and you want to overlap depending on your market and where you live. Overlap by 30 to 45 minutes. Some of y'all may live in California, may live in Texas, where a buyer may be looking at properties and completely, I mean, like cities like apart. And so you need to overlap based on what makes sense for you. Okay. Print the MLS sheets and the disclosures. Make sure you have a copy for you and then a copy for the clients, or maybe 1 to 2 copies for the clients. And then what we do on our team is we're going to call the listing agent, and we're going to get the temperature of the listings. So we need to know how many offers they have in hand or incoming offers. Okay, those are two different things. We need to know how many showings they have and what does the seller want in an offer that makes sense for them. Okay, we want to know that information. We want to call the lender and ask for them to give us price quotes. Like if we were going to write an offer on a $400,000 property, my client is going to want to know how much it's going to be monthly payment wise. They're probably going to want to know if it's a situation where we got to go above asking price, what 405 will look like, or 410, or 420, or 440. I need to get at least 3 quotes that I can have in hand and actually send to the buyer before the showing. So I'm going to get the temperature of the listings, right? Offers, showings, what does the seller want? I'm going to get the lender price quotes, and I'm going to send all that stuff over to the buyer before the showing. Why? I want the buyer to allow their emotions to run its course with that information before we go see the property. Okay. Allow the emotions to run its course. Get that intel over to them as soon as you can. Okay. And then that is what we call future pacing. Future pacing, letting them know that this property, if it has a lot of showings and if it has offers, the buyer needs to be prepared for that. And then allowing that to run its course so that when you get to the property now, they have more context. Okay. Cool. So when you get to the property, get there early. I recommend getting there um, 10 minutes early, 15. If you get there 5 minutes early, the clients are probably already there. But the earlier you can get there and walk the property, the better. You want to be able to walk through the property and identify potential things that the buyer could be concerned about. And if you have enough time, reach out to the listing agent to get answers on the questions that you have based on your walkthrough. Because if you have questions, the buyer probably will too. And if the buyer gets there and they see those problems and now you're reacting to trying to get the answers, it's not gonna, can it still work out? Sure, but it's not the best way. So get there early if you can. Before starting the tour, give the client the information, the MLS sheets, the disclosures, remind them on the temperature of the property, and then do a walkthrough of the tour. And you want to do that together. Keep the family or the spouses together if that's the group you're working with. Keep everybody together, okay? And then you should never leave the buyer's side. Now, when it's time to close the showing, very simple. After the walkthrough, have your clients rate the home. You can do 1 to 5. You can do 1 to 7. It doesn't matter. I normally do 1 to 5, and I tell them to not use 3. Okay. Have them rate the home. Ask them, could you see you and your family living here? And keep in mind, buyers make their decisions on, what house they're going to write an offer on based on a process of elimination. Okay. So if they rate it a 4 or 5, let's say they rated a 4, you want to identify what would make it a 5. If it's something that's cosmetic, and that by them changing that thing that's cosmetic, it could actually help them increase the value of their home, break that down to them, the benefits there. And then most likely you should be writing an offer. If they say a 5, you should definitely be writing an offer, right? You should. Now, whether you write it right there on the spot or you write it the next day, that's up to you and the client. But that should be a priority at that point if they're rated a 5. Okay, if you're doing 1 to 5 as a rating, 5 being they love it. Now, before writing the offer, and if you can do this in front of the client, this is even better. Call the listing agent back to reaffirm the temperature of the property to the buyer. And now this is good because you get to establish your authority a lot more, because the information that you told them before the showing, if it's the same and they hear you on the phone with the listing agent, then that increases your authority score with them and trust. They can hear it from the source, and they can see you as an authority in your relationship with the other agent. Okay. And then what we use, and this is what I recommend everyone use, is have some type of one-sheeter if you can. We call it an offer sheet, an offer summary sheet, and we fill that out with the buyer. So we go ahead and talk strategy, we brain dump, we mastermind together on the strategy that we're going to take in our offer. And we fill it out with the client, and we have the client sign it, okay? But then later we plug in everything on the offer summary sheet into the purchase agreement and all the disclosures that we need and all that stuff, okay? And then obviously we need to go over that with the buyer as well. But we like to be together with the buyer when we're filling out the initial offer sheet. If that makes sense. And typically we like to do that in the home or outside the home. That's the ideal situation if you can make it work. And then you submit the offer to the listing agent. Now, there are different approaches that I know you can take when it comes to like creating the offer itself. That is a completely different episode, but this is the showing part and the starting point of writing an offer. Okay. So this is the world's greatest showing. If you do this and you master it, you will be more efficient working with buyers. I promise you, I guarantee you. Okay. So I'm going to put a bow on this one. Again, this is how we as a team we've been able to be collectively very efficient working with buyers, no matter what the market is. Okay. No matter what the market is doing, we've been able to be very efficient working with buyers. And yes, we're not perfect, and we still got a lot of room to do, a lot of room to grow. And actually, that's the exciting part, is we're already pretty efficient and we're still getting better by following this process. So cool. Y'all know what to do. I hope this is helpful for you. This is one you want to continue to. This is very tactical. So it's a little different than some of the most recent podcasts, but this is one where you're going to want to listen to and apply. And if you have questions, you know what to do. Reach out. If this is helpful, or you know somebody that could use this, send it to them. Help a friend, and then you will be more blessed in your life as well. So, all right, you guys, stay strong out there. You know what to do. I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.